conquer. Today, in this video, we're going to discuss about the state of Indian economy on the eve of independence. The sole purpose of the British colonial rule in India was to reduce the country to being a raw material supplier for Great Britain's own rapidly expanding modern industrial base. An understanding of the exploitative nature of this relationship is essential for any assessment of the level of development which the Indian economy has been able to attain over the last 7 decades. Lower level of economic development under the colonial rule. On the eve of independence, India possessed low level of economic development under the colonial rule. Before the advent of British rule, India had an independent economy before the advent of British rule. Agriculture was the main source of livelihood for most people. Yet, some other manufacturing activities were also prevailing in the economy. Indian products had worldwide support during that time because of the reputation of the fine quality of material used and the high standards of craftsmanship seen in all imports. During the British rule, discriminative economic policies. Colonial government followed the policies of protection and promotion of the economic interests of their home country than developing Indian economy. There were no attempts from the part of the colonial government to estimate India's national income and per capita income. There were some individual attempts which were made to measure the above aggregates from Dadabhai Naroji, Digby, V.K.R.V Rao and R.C. Desai. It was V.K.R.V Rao whose estimates during the colonial period were considered very significant. Let us now study the state of agriculture sector on the eve of independence. India's agriculture sector on the eve of independence exhibited 3 principal characteristics. These characteristics pointed to backwardness of India's agriculture as well as its stagnation. Low level of productivity, high degree of vulnerability, a wedge between owners of the soil and tillers of the soil. Let us see what are the factors that caused backwardness and stagnation to Indian agriculture under the British rule. First one, the zamindari system or land revenue settlement under the British Raj. Second, forced commercialization of agriculture. Next, industrial sector. Let us look what was the state of industrial sector on the eve of independence. Systematic deindustrialization is the term that describes the status of industrial sector during the British rule. It implied 2 things. Which are they? First one, decay of world famous traditional handicraft industry owing to discriminatory policies of the British government. Second, bleak growth of modern industry now to lack of investment opportunities. We know that the policy British government followed was the policy of systematic deindustrialization. It was a twofold policy. What were the 2 things? To exploit India's wealth of raw material and primary products. It was required to fulfill the emerging needs of industrial inputs in the wake of industrial revolution in Britain. The second thing of the twofold policy of British government was that to exploit India as a potential market for the industrial products of Britain. Let us now look into the demographic condition of Indian economy on the eve of independence. Demographic conditions during the British rule exhibited all features of a stagnant and backward economy. Both birth rate and death rate were very high, nearly 48 and 40 per thousand respectively. On the eve of independence, the demographic condition was as follows. First one, the overall literacy level was less than 16%. The female literacy level was at a negligible low rate of about 7%. Public health facilities were either unavailable to large chunks of population or when available were highly inadequate. Infant mortality rate or IMR was 218 per thousand in contrast to present infant mortality rate of 63 per thousand. Next, life expectancy. It was very low, 44 years in contrast to the present 66 years. Last one, both birth rate and death rate were very high at 48 and 40 per thousand of persons respectively. Next, occupational structure during the British rule. Greater dependence on agriculture, as suggested by occupational structure on the eve of independence, implied lesser availability of land per head for the farming population. Accordingly, agriculture was taken largely as a means of subsistence and less as an occupation for profit. We can see that from the pie chart itself, we can see that the agriculture sector accounted for the largest share of workforce, which usually remained at a high of 70 to 75%, while the manufacturing and the service sectors accounted for only 10% and 15 to 20%. Next, we can look into the state of infrastructure on the eve of independence. Infrastructure. It refers to the elements of economic change as well as the elements of social change, which serve as a foundation for growth and development of a country. Development of infrastructure is a precondition to the economic and social development of a country. Let us see what was the state of infrastructure under the colonial rule. First one, roads. Roads constructed before independence were not fit for modern transport. It was very difficult to reach rural areas during rainy season. The roads were built only, very important point you have to notice down. The roads were built only to serve the purpose of mobilizing the army within India and transporting raw materials from the countryside to the nearest railway station or the port forward for exporting it. Okay. Next, railways. The railways affected the structure of the Indian economy in the following two ways. Which are they? First one, it enabled people to undertake long distance travel and thereby break geographical and cultural barriers. Second, it fostered commercialization of Indian agriculture, which adversely affected the self-sufficiency of the village economies in India. Next one, water and air transport. The colonial rulers took measures for the development of water transport. The inland waterways at times also proved uneconomical. Why? Because in the case of the coast canal on the Orissa coast, the main purpose behind the development was to serve Britain's colonial interest. The colonial government also showed weight to the air transport in 1932 by establishing Tata Airlines. Okay, thus in this way it inaugurated the aviation sector in India. Next one, communication. Modern postal system started in India in 1837. The first telegraphy line was opened in 1857. Okay. The introduction of the expensive system of electric telegraph in India served the purpose of maintaining law and order. Next, we're going to look into the state of the foreign trade on the eve of independence. India has been an important trading nation since ancient times. But when the restrictive policies of commodity production, trade and tariff were imposed by the colonial government, it adversely affected the structure, composition and volume of India's foreign trade. Following were the reasons behind the poor growth of foreign trade of India during on the eve of independence. First one, export of primary products and import of finished goods. Under the colonial rule, India became an exporter of primary goods like raw silk, cotton, wool, sugar, indigo, jute, etc., and an importer of finished consumer goods from Britain like cotton, silk, woolen clothes, and capital goods like light machinery produced in the factories of Britain. Next, drain of India's wealth. An important characteristic of foreign trade throughout the colonial period was the generation of a large export surplus. But this surplus came at a huge cost to the country's economy. Several essential commodities like food grains, kerosene were scarcely available in the domestic market. Also, the surplus was not used in any development level of India. Rather, it was used to maintain the administrative setup of the Britishers or bear the expenses of war taught by Britain. All of this led to the drain of Indian wealth. So that's all about this chapter. Hope all my friends had got a clear-cut summary of this chapter. This chapter is very simple. Just to study this chapter as a story, then it will be very easy. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for watching my video. Do subscribe and share this video to your friends who are in need of this chapter. Thank you. With pleasure. This is Conquering